続きましては、今、宇野先生の発表にもありましたとおり、北米モデルという紹介がありましたが、北米の野生生物協会、ちょっと宇野先生のスライドとはちょっと訳が違いましたけども、TWS と言われる学協会が行っている野生生物学者認定プログラムについてですね、インランドノルウェー応用科学大学のスコット・ブレナード先生から紹介いただきます。でブレナード先生からはですね、動画を作成いただきましたので、そちらを流したいと思います。で字幕がついてますので、そちらをご覧いただければ理解できると思いますので、再生の方よろしくお願いします。
Hello, my name is Scott Brainerd, and I'm going to talk to you today about the Wildlife Society Wildlife Biologist Certification Program. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about undergraduate curricula, both in the United States and here in Norway, where I currently work, and a little bit about practical hands-on training of undergraduate wildlife biologists. Briefly, a little bit about myself. My name is Dr. Scott Brainerd. I am currently an associate professor in wildlife management at the Inland University of Applied Sciences here at Evenstad, Norway. I am a certified biologist, and I have been since the year 2000. I have my education in wildlife biology from the University of Alaska, a master's degree from the University of Montana, and also a PhD from the Norwegian University of Life Sciences. And I've been active for now 52 years, remarkably, starting at an early age as a volunteer with the Washington Game Department. At the age of 13, I started working. So I've worked primarily for the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. I've had adjunct faculty positions at the University of Alaska and also the Norwegian University of Life Sciences. I've worked for various other agencies, as you can see here in this slide. I became a certified wildlife biologist in the year 2000 under the old certification program, which did not require continuing education. I'll get back into the requirements for becoming an associate wildlife biologist and a certified wildlife biologist a little later in this talk. Wildlife Society was founded in 1937 as a professional organization for wildlife biologists in the United States of America. It has expanded now to Canada. The mission of the Wildlife Society is to inspire, empower, and enable wildlife professionals to sustain wildlife populations and habitats through science-based management and conservation. Wildlife Society is many-faceted with both state and section chapters as well as student chapters throughout the U.S. and Canada. Wildlife Society offers 2 levels of certification. The primary level is the Associate Wildlife Biologist certification, which is based only on educational achievement, and it requires 81 semester hours in 11 categories of topics, and it expires 10 years after it is awarded. The Certified Wildlife Biologist option has also an experiential requirement on top of the educational requirement. The certification renewal is required every 5 years to maintain certification under the newer system. Applicants must be current members of the Wildlife Society in order to apply, and each application is evaluated by the Wildlife Society Certification Review Board. The primary goal of the Wildlife Society Certification Program is to assure public and private clients and employers that certified individuals have acquired the knowledge and experience to provide professional advice in matters concerning wildlife resources. Certification. To become an associate wildlife biologist, an individual must complete rigorous academic standards and is then judged on their ability to represent the profession as an ethical practitioner, and such will be designated as an associate wildlife biologist. The associate wildlife biologist certification is granted for 10 years and cannot be renewed. An associate wildlife biologist is a certified individual that can be upgraded to a certified wildlife biologist during this 10-year time period once the necessary experience requirements are obtained. As I mentioned earlier, a certified wildlife biologist is someone who has at least 5 years of professional experience gained over the intervening past 10 years. A certified wildlife biologist is an individual with an educational background that has demonstrated expertise in the art and science of applying the principles of ecology to the conservation and management of wildlife and its habitats, and is judged to be able to represent the profession as an ethical practitioner, and as such will be designated as a certified wildlife biologist. The Certified Wildlife Biologist certification is valid for 5 years and may be renewed. In order to maintain this, one must continue to be a Wildlife Society member and meet continuing education requirements. So what are the education requirements? First and foremost, someone seeking certification must have completed at least 36 semester hours in the biological sciences. Of these, at least 6 semester hours should be in wildlife management, as distinguished from wildlife biology. Wildlife biology includes 6 semester credits in at least one course in ornithology, herpetology, or mammalogy. In addition, a 3-credit course in ecology is required, 9 credits in zoology, 9 credits in botany, including 1 course in plant taxonomy or identification. In addition, candidates must have completed a course in basic statistics for 3 credits, 6 credits of courses in quantitative sciences, 9 credits in physical sciences such as physics or chemistry, 9 credits in humanities and social sciences, 12 credits in communication, and 6 credits in policy and administration. I would note that communication is really important. If you're going to become a wildlife biologist, you have to be able to communicate both with your colleagues and peers, but also with the public. Wildlife biologists typically have to present their findings and discuss critical issues in different fora, including scientific fora, as well as interacting with the public. And so communication is really essential. In addition, there's something called the Professional Development Certificate, which is a recognition by the Wildlife Society that a certificate holder has gone above and beyond in staying engaged in the wildlife profession over the past 5 years. In this case, applicants do not have to be certified in order to apply, and applicants must log at least 150 continuing education units within the past 5 years when submitting their application. So these requirements really are meant to ensure that someone who is a certified wildlife biologist has maintained their competency through training and education and participation at national or other meetings. I mentioned an associate wildlife biologist basically has to become a certified wildlife biologist within a 10-year period. It costs money. There are application fees associated with both the associate wildlife biologist and the certified wildlife biologist levels of certification, and these are perhaps meant both for processing, just the cost of processing, but also to ensure that people are serious enough to want to apply. So it is a bit of a barrier in that sense, but these are not unreasonable prices, frankly. But anyone who's interested in this can, of course, visit the website of the Wildlife Society to learn more, as is indicated in this slide. The benefits of becoming a certified wildlife biologist. Well, it conveys that an individual has relevant knowledge and skills as a wildlife biologist. It can help people that have certification to stand out for hiring, for promotion or salary considerations within agencies or consulting firms or universities. It does give you credibility as a qualified professional in the field of wildlife biology, and it complements or demonstrates state and federal agency position requirements. Now, I would like to stop right now and say that I was a research supervisor with the Alaska Department of Fish and Game. And in that context, our requirements for wildlife biologist positions were very similar to those for a certified wildlife biologist, depending on the level of the position, because we had different levels: wildlife biologist 1, 2, 3, 4, and those, as you went up the scale, the experience requirements and the educational requirements were higher. So in a sense, because of the system that we have in the U.S., it is you're going to meet certification requirements even if you're not a certified wildlife biologist, in most cases, if you're hired as a wildlife biologist with a state or federal agency. So, but it is basically a stamp of approval by the Wildlife Society that you've met the minimum requirements they see for wildlife biologist certification. I might also add that I got my PhD in Norway, where I am now, and I sought certification with the Wildlife Society in order to show to any prospective employers, including the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, that I was a bona fide wildlife biologist as certified by the Wildlife Society. Because courses are different in Scandinavia than they are in the US or Canada, the semester credit system was different. So for me, it was important to have that certification in order to apply for jobs back in the United States, having a foreign education. Wildlife biology is a very competitive profession. And as you can see from this slide, there are a considerable number of wildlife biology positions within the United States, roughly 19,000 positions, which is quite a few compared to other countries' populations. Most of these positions are in government, either the federal government, which encompasses the United States, states and territories, or state governments for individual states. That's about 65%. And then there are other scientific and technical industries, universities that also employ about 17%, and including education, etc., 18%. Generally, you see that about a half of the positions that are offered in the U.S. require at least a bachelor's degree, but just as many, if not more, require a master's degree. And when I was hiring wildlife research biologists, the requirement was a minimum of a master's degree, because a master's degree in the U.S. entails research. In some cases, you may need a PhD or postdoc on top of that for positions with agencies or universities. Well, I've been asked also to talk a little bit about examples of wildlife course curricula. Many American and Canadian universities that offer degrees in wildlife biology or wildlife conservation or wildlife management accommodate Wildlife Society certification requirements in their undergraduate programs. So basically, students are guided as to which courses they should take above and beyond what is required for their undergraduate bachelor degrees. And I have two examples here from universities that I attended: the University of Montana, bachelor degree in wildlife biology, and the University of Alaska, bachelor degree in wildlife biology and conservation. Both of these degree programs indicate which courses are required for TWS certification, and that these may include courses not actually required for the degree itself. Universities that offer wildlife degrees will often have different options. When I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Alaska, I could take either the research option or the management option. The research option was more heavy on courses such as genetics. Management option was more heavy on communication, policy, law, etc., and techniques. So it really varies from program to program and over time. Here I'll just mention that the terrestrial concentration for the bachelor's degree in wildlife biology at the University of Montana focuses on birds and mammals and their habitats, and not the aquatic systems. Here is an overview of the wildlife biology curriculum from this fall for a 4-year program leading to a bachelor's degree in wildlife biology. I can't read through all of these course requirements, but you can study this and see that it is pretty comprehensive. If you study that curriculum, you'll see that not all of the courses that are required by the Wildlife Society are included in the degree program. The University of Montana website for the wildlife biology program does indicate, however, which courses should be taken in order to fulfill the Wildlife Society certification requirements. And you can see what is not required by the University of Montana, but which is required by the Wildlife Society, are policy courses, administrative courses, courses in law. And I think this is really important for my own career working in wildlife management and conservation. I've been heavily involved in the development of policy and also in the legislative and wildlife management regulatory process. So this is very important for a practitioner to be familiar with these aspects. Again, communication is very important, both spoken and written communication, the ability to communicate one-on-one with other individuals and teams in the workplace, also interacting with other professionals and as well as the public, very important skills. If you're very shy and introverted, it's going to be difficult to be a professional wildlife biologist. And writing skills are very important, not only for scientific publications, but also for communicating to hunters or other people, other stakeholders through magazines, newspaper articles, television interviews, etc. I've encountered all of that in my career. So in addition, humanities and social sciences, minimum 9 credits. These are at liberal colleges in the United States and Canada. These are easy courses to pick up. And then the physical sciences. Interestingly, the wildlife biology program at the University of Montana doesn't require physical science units, but you need to have chemistry, physics, geology, or soils classes in order to become a certified wildlife biologist through the Wildlife Society. Biology and wildlife at the University of Alaska Fairbanks is where I did my undergraduate degree back in 1981. It is also one of the premier wildlife programs in the United States and in the world, and it also has a very well-developed undergraduate program in wildlife biology. A slide on their website describing the degree program, bachelor's degree program in wildlife biology and conservation. Visit the program website, you can get a detailed overview of the minimum requirements for the degree program, which consists of 120 semester credits over 4 years. Many wildlife programs in the U.S., and this is not limited just to the University of Alaska or the University of Montana, emphasize the value of active learning in their programs, engaging students in either field or lab activities to enhance their understanding of a particular topic. For example, at the University of Montana, there are several exercises that are used to engage students in learning. For example, here we see students learning how to estimate wildlife populations by using mark recapture techniques with dried beans in a class, where basically they mark some of the beans and then they put them back into a pot or whatever, and then they extract them, and from that they determine, basically estimate population size from marked versus unmarked beans, which is very similar to what we do in the field with a variety of wildlife species. Radiotelemetry is a central tool used in wildlife biology for a variety of purposes, including describing wildlife use of habitats, also, as mentioned earlier, for marker capture studies to estimate wildlife populations, etc. So it's something that many universities offer is courses in wildlife techniques and methods that would include a day out with radiotelemetry gear, tracking a radio collar that's hidden somewhere in the terrain, and teaching the fundamentals of triangulation and or GPS downloading of data, etc. Field trips are a fundamental part of undergraduate education at many universities. Going out and visiting a ranch in Montana to learn about private conservation on private land, going out, for example, to the National Bison Range in Montana, instructors shooting an elk or a bison or a pronghorn antelope for necropsy for a course in mammalian reproduction, as I experienced when I was at the University of Montana. Many kinds of different hands-on opportunities, including longer field trips that may take a week or more, such as at the University of Alaska. There were field trips, excursions over several days to Denali National Park to view wildlife and discuss different aspects of wildlife management and conservation. So very hands-on, but still the emphasis is on classroom learning at most of these schools. Some students measuring how much grass seed rodents eat during a lab, grass seed that rodents eat during a lab exercise on Mount Sentinel with Missoula, Montana in the background. So you don't have to go far afield in order to have good learning opportunities that are very stimulating for the students and get them outside, because we have to remember that wildlife biologists are fundamentally outdoor people and they really enjoy being outside to learn. Focused on giving you examples of curricula and learning opportunities at American universities relative to the certification program. But I would like to mention also our program at the Inland Norway University of Applied Sciences here at Evenstad. We have a pretty strong contingent of students from all around the world that come to Evenstad to pursue bachelor's degrees and also advanced degrees in wildlife biology. And in that context, the first Wildlife Society student chapter was founded outside of North America here in Norway last year in 2021, actually by some American students, but with membership of including both Norwegian and students from places such as Australia, various European countries. So we now have a very active student chapter that are involved in a variety of different learning activities that they themselves have initiated, such as camera trapping or whale safaris in northern Norway, etc. So this is a very inclusive organization. So many of the students that are studying wildlife biology have an opportunity for extracurricular activities that are focused on the wildlife profession. Teach undergraduate courses in wildlife management in English and also in Norwegian, which have specific focus on topics of interest and relevance to both of those groups. Here we see some students from the Erasmus program during my wildlife management course in the mountains of Norway. They've gone out on an excursion to learn about wild reindeer management, also about muskox management and Arctic fox management. And we're at this point viewing some muskoxen on the landscape near the Wild Reindeer Center at Jørgen. Each fall, line transect inventory of forest birds, forest grouse, and mountain grouse or ptarmigan are conducted throughout Norway. At our school, students are also engaged in this activity. Bachelor students must write a bachelor's thesis on a particular topic that they can choose with their advisor. I've been responsible and collaborated with other faculty to engage students in hazel grouse biology and management, primarily through inventory or counting hazel grouse by using a special whistle that imitates their mating call. And so we send students out with the GPS equipment and a whistle and a map to locate these census points in order to count birds. And they also have placed out audio recording boxes to record hazel grouse calling in the fall and in the spring. Currently heading up a project on pine marten research here at Evenstad, and in that regard have engaged many undergraduate students in various facets of field work, including setting up traps, monitoring traps, catching martens, bringing them into the lab for processing, and then releasing marten again into the field and radio tracking them with VHF telemetry and downloading locations from their GPS collar. So this has been really an exciting opportunity for select students to be involved in, to get their feet wet basically and learn about the practical side of field research. We have many such projects here at Evenstad on a variety of species, from voles to brown bears and wolves. So this is not unique to my particular position, but something that is practiced pretty widespread in our faculty. End of my presentation. I would direct you to the Wildlife Society webinar website, and if you wish, you can view the webinar on the Wildlife Biologist Certification Program produced by the Wildlife Society. It's much more detailed than what I've gone into now. It's about 55 minutes long, and if you click on this link that's embedded in this PDF, you can watch that video. I would just like to thank you all for your attention. I understand that it's not the same as being able to talk to you all face-to-face, but I've enjoyed this opportunity to tell you a little bit about the Wildlife Society Certification Program, wildlife studies in the United States as well as in Norway. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me by email. Thank you very much.
以上で、4つの取り組み紹介を発表を終わりたいと思います。で、続いて総合討論に移りますが、会場設営の関係で、45分まで休憩といたします。45分から総合討論を始めたいと思いますので、休憩といたします。